Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Freak Sense TV. I'm your host, Charlie Freak, and we have a very special guest on our show today. Now, in recent weeks, a host of people have recommended us to Chris's work, including a good friend of ours who is Jesse Perez Casanova. And so there's a lot of people that have passed us over to Chris's work, and it's very timely, it's very important, and it's taking power action into your hands right now. This is a gentleman who knows his stuff and who is authentic from top to bottom. That's Colleen and I as well, and we're so excited to connect with other people that are deeply connected to one thing, and that is the truth. And that's the only answer, folks, because everything exists within the truth. If you try to go love and light first, many wars and many horrendous things have been fought in the names of love and light. But there's never been anything specious fought in the name of truth, because it is what it is, and there is one truth. So with all of that, let's welcome Chris James to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Charlie and Colleen. It's been truly, I'm humbled by the wonderful words that you've spoke to me about. My train left last summer surrounding bringing this trespass forward to the world, and I was originally going to do it in Canada. For those of you who don't know, my name is Christopher James. I live in Canada here. I've been here all my life. I love this country. I love this world in which we live in. And why I'm before you here today is because we have an enormous evil that exists in this world that is finally, I guess you could say, it showed its hand surrounding the COVID, actions that have been occurring, shall we say, the theater that's been going on since it began October of last year. And for those of us who have been on point, I have 20 years of enormous deep research. My background is I graduated with a degree in recording engineering, working in the music and entertainment industry. I'm a writer, engineer, producer. I got about 80 songs in the pipe, so to speak. My love, that's my passion, which I ate, slept, and bred. And then as I worked through that, I graduated in 86. I was in college at 17, out at 19. And then I worked in downtown Toronto in the world-class studios for a few years after that. And then I basically left because I was at a position, Charlie, that I could work at any studio in the world at that point. And I wanted to further my professional skills and really be a powerhouse, like this is what this has become for me here. I actually thought, Charlie, that this initiative that I was doing all my life since I was 13, I've been drawn to the music and entertainment industry because it is such a powerful medium to be able to get music and move people around the world and connect people and bring people together. And it was through my background in the music and entertainment industry that I saw an incredible opportunity that opened up in 1998. As many people may or may not know, the internet came online around 95. And then shortly after that, there was an entity called Napster that came out that basically destroyed the music and entertainment industry. Right. It's nothing really to laugh about for us because it really killed a lot of artists, and it really caused a lot of havoc in the system to make it, reset itself, so to speak. And today, how it's reset itself is just disgusting. Yeah. But what I saw was this incredible opportunity. So I began an initiative that was going to launch in 10 countries. It was $1.5 billion. And then what happened was, I guess you could say, I didn't have a background on financial side of it. So during my research in 2000 and leading up to it to 2003, I finally came, I guess you could say, face to face with the Federal Reserve, the monetary system. And when I came across that, Charlie, again, I, like every other man and woman that's out there, the majority of people don't have a clue how money is created or where it comes from. And once you learn that truth, it's devastating because you realize it's only a handful of families that have been controlling and ruling this world for a very, very long time. These are not conspiracy theories, people. These are concrete facts. And I'm prepared to step into any courtroom anywhere around this world, and under oath or affirmation, I'll lay that truth down before my fellow man and woman, and I will make it known that this is fact. So what happened was that when I realized what was going on with the Federal Reserve, my life's work was destroyed. My entire, this global initiative that I was launching, it was going to do just, this is before Facebook was around and YouTube. Yeah. And I had a business model, a subscription model of $5 a month. And basically we were going to generate about $20 billion without even breaking a sweat. And it was an incredible way of giving back. Also, there was a global consciousness fund that was called Soul Core Entertainment Group. Yeah, and there was a global consciousness fund that was attached to it. It was like the third arm of it. And what that was going to do, Charlie, is that our corporation was going to, even though I loathe corporations now when I know what they're about, but it was ultimately about me, what I was creating here. I wanted to put a cap on all the proceeds, and I wanted to show everybody in real time because of this connectivity that was happening with the wonderful technology that was coming forward, I was going to be able to show through the architecture of how all the revenues were coming in and going out, because we were going to place a cap on our proceeds. We were going to show everybody what we made in every single country. And then anything over above that cap would go back into that consciousness fund for every country, which would be billions of dollars. And then that money can be used from everything from education to health, technology, you name it. So you could see what I was trying to do back then. And this is what I thought was my reason for being here in this world. It was so powerful that drew me to it. But when I came head to head with this Federal Reserve entity, so to speak, and the curtain got pulled back, I realized that my life's work was never going to come to fruition. I sat with the Prime Minister's office twice here in Canada at the time. That was Paul Martin, and they were all blown away from this. And again, I achieved something that the government, the Service Corporation, that's one of the words we want to start to drill down on here today, is that the words that we use are very important. And we've had some enormous truth that's been hidden from us all our lives. And what you're going to learn from this wonderful discussion I'm going to have, hopefully with Charlie here today, is the power and the simplicity of few words that we have to use. Okay? Because when you understand the power of these words, their trespass, property, and who, when you apply them in your everyday life, you really start to understand basically who you are in this world. You'll understand the power that we all have. You understand also the power of law and that public courthouse. That's a key word, a public courthouse. It's not a private courthouse. So what happened was, like I said, after I sat with Paul Martin's office or whatever, then I achieved what no one else has ever done, is I secured almost 2,000 acres of Algonquin. It was under a land claim. It's the longest standing land claim, Charlie, in Canada's history that Parliament Hill actually still sits on. And the Algonquin people, because they were the original people that were here, not aboriginal. I think that's a horrific way to call them. You know, if I met Charlie and I said, he's an abnormal guy, right? Or, you know, you wouldn't think of that too much. You're a normal guy. So when you put the word ab in front of original, aboriginal, to me, it's a very wrong terminology to explain what these wonderful people are. And people need to know is that I didn't know any of these various different tribes. I went across there. They were split up at that time in Canada. They were all infighting at who had the correct bloodlines that were Algonquin. So here I am going out to all these various different communities with all these various chiefs that are all fighting. I went to their head, the only place in Canada, in Ontario, that's recognized as the Indian Reserve, and it's called on Golden Lake. And they only have 1,800 acres. So here's a guy coming out of nowhere, Charlie, that's looking to acquire, it's almost 2,000 acres within this land claim. Just so people know, the Ministry of Natural Resources, they had trouble even dispersing a half an acre, okay, to anybody for any type of sale, for any type of project within this land claim, because it was anything would be held up by the Algonquin people. So when I started to go see them, all the government people were telling me, oh, they're just going to use you, Chris. They're going to lie to you, all this normal crap. Well, I went to them with love, first and foremost in my heart. And I spoke to them the truth, what I was actually doing with this initiative. And they were so moved by this in a short time, Charlie, in 6 weeks, they signed over that they wrote to the Minister of Natural Resources that they wanted to see these 2,000 acres with an airfield granted to Soulco Entertainment and Title and Deed. And that was a very big moment for me here, because that's when I really knew that I was truly on the right path for my creator and what I was doing. And then what unfolded shortly after that, again, that's when this whole thing came down. Alan Lee from Lord of the Rings, incredible conceptual artist. He flew over specifically to meet me. This is not an I love me thing. Like, these are facts. So people understand the foundation of where this information is coming from today. You have to understand who I am before you. Again, it's not an I love me thing. This is fact. So when you hear that a man like Alan Lee flew over specifically to see me to do a project, and he turned down Brad Pitt at the same time to do the motion picture Troy to offer his services to me, I was incredibly humbled. And there was another signal to me, Charlie, that was telling me that what I was doing was incredibly powerful. But shortly after that, that's when I realized that everything was going to fall apart because of the system that was out there. So I got into commercial lending quickly after that. I started working with all levels of law enforcement because this massive fraud was starting to appear to me doing these. When you're doing commercial lending, it's different than other lending. You're getting into people's real specifics of their businesses. And a lot of people think that you're like almost a CRA up here, which is the Canadian Revenue Agency, which you're not. But you have to make sure that if you're going to secure financing for everybody with institutional lending, that the documentation, just like we're talking here today, it has to be factually based. It has to be verified, right? You have to verify what's going on here for something to be true. So I started seeing all these elderly people getting horrifically, abused and money stolen from them. So I started working with the RCMP, and then other larger, we'll just say with the mob, some cases, some of the largest ones in Ontario that I can't speak about, wound up coming across my desk. And I started again interacting with the various levels of law enforcement. Through that journey and that, I started to learn, I started actually dealing with, a lawyer for my pension fund. My father had a pension fund that we brought to my attention in 2006. He got this documentation sent to him of this money that was owed to him and all the remaining living pensioners from the Fuller Brush Company. And that was supposed to have been paid out. Sara Lee bought them in 92. It was supposed to have been paid out in 92. Now my dad's getting a notice that they found this, miraculously, this surplus of $1.6 million. It wound up being $17.5 million. I found out once I started doing investigation. They pillaged the fund, which they had no right or title to it. Yeah. And when I took my investigative work, it was handed to a lawyer on a silver platter here in Toronto. He looked at it of 40 years and he said, "Chris, there must be something you've missed here. Surely something's wrong." And then he looked on it. So people know I take the GO train back and forth to Toronto when I have to go into it, so I don't have to deal with traffic. It's about a 40-minute drive, 40-minute train. The lawyer called me right back on the train before I even got my rear end warm on the seat. He said, "Chris," he says, "this is the most horrific case," he said, "I've ever seen." Because I drilled right down. I guess that's a skill that I have, Charlie, that I'm able to drill right down specifically on the actual, whether it's a trespass, the action, wherever we need to look to understand and seek remedy where something's gone wrong or harmed. I guess that's where my specialty is. I'm very good. I'm like a dog with a bone. And just before that as well, you should know, I started getting involved with going after the local municipality. They were doing all these things around me in my neighborhood where fraud was starting to be shown or whatever. So this is what started me down this role. I thought that the correct way to do this was getting a lawyer, right? Doing the legal process, going through these courts and stuff. And then I learned that the legal world has nothing to do with a man or a woman. And that was obviously this man that I brought to this case to. The pension case wound up being a $240 million class action suit. Okay. And at the end of the day, Sara Lee caved 8 months or 6 months before they were supposed to be brought in court. And you know what this lawyer did? He walked the clients back in. This is as my father was dying in a hospital. All right. My father was ultimately murdered to stop me. That's what the evidence has led me to believe from that I've had here. And I've not had a chance to obviously rectify that. But ultimately why I'm here is that my father ended up dying before I saw a penny of that was owed to him. So that people know, my father worked for 41 years for the Fuller Brush Company. His pension was only $3,600 a year. Okay, so he got a check to him. My mother and father, they've done so much. We don't come from a family of money. They've struggled their whole lives, but they were incredible people. So ultimately why I'm here, Charlie, is because this enormous wrong and harm, when I started to launch this initiative, the people that I went to for financing, again, I waded into this corruption, this sea of venture capitalism. And these people completely destroyed me and my family. And then as it further worked its way along, it became very, very difficult. So I vowed to my father, especially when it came up. Remember, this happened in 2003, I got this destroyed. And then by 2010, I was operating and attacking these people that were going after my father's pension and all this corruption that was going on. So it was a very long time between the two of them. But through that course from 2001 or 2, all the way right up until 2000, till today, it's been a commitment that I've made to my father to hold these people accountable who did this to him, to make these people, brought before court and exposed for the enormous corruption and wrong and harm that they did. And it was through this process that I've gone through, this journey, through this life experience over the last 20 years, Charlie, that it brought me to this enormous truth that we're going to talk about here today. Because what I was reaching out to do to protect my mother and father and restore and correct an enormous wrong and harm that happened to my family, I wound up realizing that this is something that affects the entire world. Yeah. So it's through this enormous, devastation that happened through me that I've come through the light now, and I'm standing here before the world, and I'm immovable with this truth because it applies to every single man and woman. So what this truth is, Charlie, we'll just talk about it simply, is that there's a trespass that occurs when we are all born. And people say, "Christopher, what do you mean by a trespass?" Well, when you're born in the hospital, you're not only moments old, you're taking your first breath. There's your wonderful mother and father. They're there and they're filling out paperwork in the hospital. And they believe that they're simply placing on the record, right, that this is the date that my child or my daughter or my son came into this world, and we're simply making an official record of it. That's the same understanding that the honorable people at the hospital believe, because remember, they're all trained to fill out the paperwork a certain way, etc. They're not aware of this nefarious action that's actually occurring in the background. So you say, well, what's this paperwork that we're filling out? It's on my website, but I do have a copy here that I can kind of quickly show. This is the original record when I was born in the hospital. That's what you see on the inside here, but then you see that there's a border that goes around it, okay? This is the hospital record that my mother and father filled out, Charlie. And within that, you see the doctor's signature, you see my weight as a child, but then what's happened is that document has been removed from the hospital record, and it has been set inside a template. See inside the square? This is like a template. Well, what's all this other nonsense with these numbers and stuff up here? That's right. And this other stuff that's down here. What does this have to do with when I was born as a child in a hospital bed? Well, what they're actually doing at that moment is they're creating a bond on behalf of, unbeknownst to you in the back end system. And in the same breath, which you receive a few weeks later, all of us receive, which is known as a birth certificate. Okay. Everyone's led to believe that the birth certificate actually relates to, it's a factual piece of document that applies to you as a man or woman. And here's the big truth, people. This document that we all receive, that's called a birth certificate. Remember that when we apply for this online, when you go to my website, you will see that there's a video I did on that channel. You can also look up Christopher J. It was the original YouTube channel I set up like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I put up a movie there, A Planned Trespass Against the Mind of Man. Everybody should give a quick look at that, because you can go back and see what I was telling everybody then has now come to fruition. More importantly, you're going to see the process in order to get this document. It's called a long form birth certificate in Ontario here. Only one problem, Charlie. Nowhere on this document does it say birth certificate. Okay, that's your first tell when you have to start to pay attention to the words that are on all this paperwork. And I say this to everybody listening today. This is also, I can quickly jump on this. This is the reason we are in the state that we're in globally today, Charlie, is because everyone is looking for a piece of paper, words on a piece of paper to control them, or is controlling them. Or somehow words on a piece of paper, you know, make the case for who they are with all their rights and that they have. This is the problem, is because right at birth, when this trespass occurs, you say, well, what's the trespass? Well, it's an unlawful conversion. And you say, well, what's an unlawful conversion? Well, we're born in this world, Charlie. You and I came into this world both as a man, right? Or man or woman, whatever we come into as. We have no paper that's attached to us. We have no contracts. We're not bound to any other man or woman in this world. We are born free. And that's why I hope we talk about JFK a little bit later on this, because I got some great stuff to tell you about that. That I bet you a lot of people are their jaws are going to be on the ground. But just saying that, the reason I mentioned JFK is because he talked about in his 1963 or 61 speech, you know, man as man was meant to be, born to be free. That's what he ended his speeches on. And that man knew the power and the importance of what he was doing back then, dealing with these societies that have obviously set up this system that's all around us today. So what has happened is, with this unlawful conversion, what they do is they go and create this birth certificate. What does it represent? A corporation, a company, a legal person that was created in your name by the Service Corporation. Ontario, in this case, is the Service Corporation, the government of Ontario. It's a service corporation. So we should put in everybody's heads right now so they simply understand the terminology, how you need to relate to these governments that are operating around us today. Number one, they are not governments buying for the people. They are service corporations that were created by the Pope, the central bankers, and the monarch. Remember that, all of them, including the United States, people. You need to recognize this. The United States of America, the organic government of the people, is not being operated under right now. You have an entity called the United States. We can get into that later on. You should probably have Anna Von Reitz on for that, because she's done incredible work in the United States on drilling down on that. But I don't want to confuse people, but the wording in the legal world is ultimately what it comes down to. That's why you must pay attention to the words. So when you go and look at your birth certificate, people, pause it for a second here on Charlie, grab a drink and come back and look at the birth certificate that you were given or your children were given. The first thing that you're going to notice is that your name is in all capital letters. That's the first thing. Okay, we are not taught to write our names in all capital letters. When I was born, it's upper and lower case. That represents I as a man, right? When you write your name in all capital letters, or there is an entity, some sort of styling, a syntax that you're seeing in front of you on a piece of paper where it's in all capital letters, that never represents a man or a woman. It always represents a corporation or something else other than a man or a woman. Remember that. So what happens here when we're born, and just to show you this, is that this documentation that I'm showing you here, it's part of my actual ID that I carry around with me. There's a second page that I have and I show on my website where your picture goes a little along. Yeah. This is the original hospital record. And then I took it and I went to a notary and I took a copy of this, made a copy of it, and I put that before the notary public. And that man, who's a professional, he compared both of them, and then he wrote a letter, and I put it on the back. I laminated it to the back of it. And he basically has my name here. I don't want to show the last and family name, but he has my name in upper and lower case. Okay, on the hospital record, your name is shown in all capital letters, but there's a line that goes underneath my last family name there. I don't want to really show that. I should have grabbed a redacted page. But ultimately, what that line of delineation means is that can be changed. And this is what the system is keyed in off. This is what the nurses and doctors are trained to do, Charlie. They don't realize what they're doing. When they're filling this form out in all capital letters, what happens then is this gets sent off in our country to the Bank of Canada, okay? And a bond is created on it. But the birth certificate, that is created at the Registrar General in Canada. That's where ultimately all this documentation winds up from. And what they do is they take an extract, Okay, as it even says on here, an extract from the long form birth certificate, which it's not, but they take an extract from that hospital record, and that's where they go and create this all capital name that's in your name. And when you see it, you get this card, you think, oh, this is my identification, because, well, look, it's got a birth date on it. Okay, birth is a trick word too. You weren't birthed, you were born.
That's
okay,
right.
Birth is a shipping term. And when you get into learning about the back end side of the secret societies of how they've created all this stuff, like the central banks, for example, who control the currency, right? The banks on the riverside control the current. And then you need a doctor, right, to administer when something is, born, birth. He's giving birth, he's creating a manifest. And that's what ultimately this is in their sick world and what they're doing, because their world, the legal world, only operates out on the sea. Okay, there's the word law is very powerful, Charlie, so people understand this first and foremost. It's not a cute word. It actually stands for the 3 jurisdictions in our world. And as you understand, the 3 jurisdictions are land, air, and water. There's different laws for each area.
Exactly.
It's common sense for everyone. That's why it's called common law. It's not a common legal country. See, we can talk in very common language here and people will understand. So the L stands for the land, the common law. That's the law of this land. It's the unwritten law that comes from our Creator. We all know the difference between right and wrong, Charlie. That's why the word trespass is in the Bible, okay? And even if you're not religious and say you're an atheist, you still know that when you were born, when we all came into this world, that you're not property of another man or woman. We're born free. We're all equal under the law. So that's where you and I stand and sit here today. Nothing has changed, Charlie, in our life with paperwork that they've tried to attach to us. Once you recognize that and bring that out into the light, this system around you falls apart, because they're using this trespass that occurs against us when we're born to basically manipulate us, steal from us. We've got all our property that we've bought from cars, homes, lands, motorbikes, whatever you care. You've always used whose identification when you bought it. You've used the ID that this service corporation gave you. Take this out of the way. I use McDonald's as an example all the time. I love McDonald's, just, even though I know the food's not the greatest, it's bad for you, but I love McDonald's, Burger King, but I just use them as an analogy to show you that if you take, for example, the Service Corporation Canada out of the way and you put Burger King there and McDonald's, they're exactly the same. They're both corporations providing services to we the people. All of those people that work for that service corporation, they have duties and obligations, okay? They have no rights. And you have to understand that. Only a man or a woman has rights. See, this is powerful stuff once you understand this, and you can speak this very simply to people when you're having to engage with, whether it's a police officer, a lawyer, a crown attorney, or some, corporate figure that works for these service corporations, even at your municipal level, because they're all operating in a corporate world, all right, in a legal world. So what happens when we're born, this unlawful conversion is that you get converted. You're born into this world as a man or woman, and immediately this evil that exists in this today, in this world, that is also responsible for this COVID theater that's going on, they kill us on paper and they create this birth certificate. And then this is what you receive in the mail a few weeks later. And from this founding document, this is where they go and create driver's licenses, health cards, SIN numbers, everything else. It's all separate corporations in your name, which you're going to see on my website. There's 4 foundational knowledge videos that are paramount for people to watch. You watch those 4 foundational knowledge videos, even though I'm talking and speaking to Canada, it applies to every common law country in this world, okay, and to every man. That's why this is so simple. Why? First and foremost, Charlie, is that we all have this evidence. Everybody's got a birth certificate. And where it goes even deeper when you understand the corruption that's surrounding this is that on the back of the birth certificates, the short forms here in Canada. Now, mine has nothing on the back. It came laminated. Sorry, I should have brought it up, but I showed in my short videos that they're the knowledge videos, so please watch them. But what we have on the back of the birth certificates here, which is not ours, it's their property, is a CUSIP number, spelled C-U-S-I-P. And when you look up what is a CUSIP number, well, it's a system that was created by the central bankers again. There's ding, 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 ding. Well, what's that doing on a birth certificate? Oh, and the fact that it also says Canadian banknote at the very bottom here on my birth certificate, which I show on my video. There's another telltale. You see, people have never actually been told what is all actually represented on this birth certificate. They do not understand it. And I say to everybody that unless you create something, okay, unless you had full knowledge of what was being created and consented to it, there's some sort of contract, then it's just words on a piece of paper, plastic, just like this hospital record. It's a record, and don't call it anything else. It's a record when you came into this world, and that's what you use it as, because the service corporations, agents, and officers witnessed it. Your mother and father witnessed it, put their signatures, as did the doctors. So only refer to this as a record. Because once you start using their terminologies and their system, they'll hoodwink you into a legal system, and then you're lost. So just remember, as we move forward, it's simply a record. This is evidence of the unlawful conversion. And what did they unlawfully convert you to? A legal person. They took you from a lawful world when you were born as a man or a woman, right? And now they've moved you over. They've killed you on paper and say, no, no, no. You're going to exist in this world now to operate and move through all our banking systems and everything else as this legal person. And this entity which they've created, as my hierarchy of creation shows, there's a triangle I have on my website. God created man and woman. Man and woman then went and created government. All governments are created to protect the property of man, period. Full stop. Don't go any further than that. Remember, they are our employees. We are the employer. And yet we have all these people, as we're seeing today with these draconian measures, telling us, dictating to us, ordering us what to do. Could you imagine, take the government of Canada out of there, or the government of Ontario, and put McDonald's? And could you imagine if McDonald's ordered everybody to stay home and to wear a mask? And if you didn't do that, well, then we're going to send our McDonald's officers after you that carry guns, and we're going to enforce it and charge you hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines and shut your businesses down, and all these measures that they're throwing out there now, which they have to do because this lie of COVID-19 is unfolding. All right. The gig is up for them. The world is starting to realize that there was a wonderful woman you got to look at is Colina Cahill, is it? The doctor? She's a parliamentary, I believe in Ireland she is. I apologize. Right. Colleen Cahill. You can look her up. She just did a credible YouTube presentation on the 22nd of September. And she's explained, this woman is fully, she's got her full doctorate behind her. She's explaining exactly what's gone on with this coronavirus and what's been going on, as other multiple doctors have around the world, but it is absolutely fantastic once people understand what is going on here with her, because they're going to see a truth that they've never seen before. And that's ultimately why I'm here, Charlie, is because this COVID-19 is such an enormous lie in our world right now. The people need to understand the truth, what's going on to it, and how to fight back. And how you fight back? Well, it's really simple. You have to learn who you are. That's why this trespass that's occurred against all of us, because what they're doing when we walk into our public courthouses, remember, I'll finish up what I didn't. I jump around a lot, but I keep it simple, hopefully, for people. And if I do speak too fast sometimes, Charlie, I apologize. I just let everybody know at home. God bless YouTube. You can go into their little settings there and you can slow it down, to half speed or something. And then that'll allow you to collect and catch all the words that I may, unfortunately, sometimes, say too fast. So again, I apologize in advance. But ultimately what happens is that we have that word law. L stands for common law, the 10 commandments. It's the unwritten law. We the people all know the difference between right and wrong. And the common law is simply this, because there's arguments out there on the net for years with all these common law groups. Is it common law? Is it natural law? It's real simple. This is how it works. You have a public courthouse there, Charlie, that every man and woman has a right to access to seek the administration of justice outside of a society that we do not belong to, which is called the bar. Okay. The legal world only applies to the dead. The legal world applies to that which is incorporated, and the lawful world applies to that which is unincorporated. So legal is corporations, companies, legal persons, or even the word persons is a legal term. Lawful only applies to man, woman, people, nothing else. Persons don't exist. And now people are starting to see this and they go, well, wait a minute, Chris. What's going on in all these public courthouses? We've been seeing on all these television shows that these lawyers represent these people, and they go into these, court proceedings where there's a man wearing a robe and he's acting as the judge, and they're going through all these codes and statutes, and it's very convoluted. That's why we have to hire a lawyer in order to protect us when we go into these courts. But what is actually happening is that the second word of law is air, which is ecclesiastical law, canon law. That's right. And the third one is water, which is admiralty, law of the sea, admiralty law, maritime law. That's what lawyers are trained in. So the light has to go on now. When I was saying, what's going on then, Chris, when we get brought into a public courthouse and we've had to go on and get a lawyer to represent us? Well, here's the trick. He's not representing you. All right. A lawyer can only represent the dead.
That's right.
And you say, what? If I'm walking in there, then what is he representing me as? Well, there's the key word. Remember, the lawyers in the bar, they play on words. They have synonyms to, again, when they say the word person, go and look in their own law books and legal books. It also applies to a corporation, a company. It has multiple meanings to it. And a corporation has the same rights as a person in the legal world. Okay, that's where it's ring fenced. But when you're not in the legal world, in the lawful world, it's a different story. So what's happening is that now you're going to understand that a lawyer, he doesn't represent you. He represents you.
That's right.
You say, most of you should be going, well, what does he represent? Well, most of you should know what he's representing you as now. this is what he's representing you as. He's representing you before their court. Remember, that court that's running, that legal court, you're in the service corporation. For example, the Ontario government here, we're in their service corporation's court. It's a public courthouse, but in that courtroom, that service corporation, McDonald, is holding court, and they're dragging you in there, and they're tricking everybody from this documentation that they've created, and why you need a lawyer to actually, you know, go through some sort of a process to seek the administration of justice. But what is actually happening is that once you walk into there and you have a lawyer who is representing you, you have no rights. You are not seen as the man or woman. You are seen as a legal person, a defendant, whatever they want to call you in their system. It has nothing to do with law. It has to do with legal.
Christopher, you know, it's the whole system is so simply contrived. Really, the complexity to it has come in the subterfuge around the system, and how they distract you away from what all of us used to know, which is that all that truly exists are the laws of the land. And so your perspective into this, as I said, and sort of in the beginning, comes through just a really sort of horrific tale about you and your family's journeys through just a sea, a current upon the land of corruption. And then the thing that's really incredible about you and your story is that you have the wherewithal, you have the intestinal fortitude to be able to see this through. And to be very honest about it, very few people do. They just simply roll over, they scream and they complain and they run far and fast from the system. That's not what you've done. You've turned around, you've dug your heels in, and you said that this is flat out wrong. And that's all it takes, folks, because everything that Christopher has been sharing with us thus far is this. Literally, you're hearing this and you're going, okay, a lot of this sounds very complicated, but at the same time, what Christopher is presenting to us is actually very simple. The subterfuge is at a very simple level. And I'm hearing this and I can see that this subterfuge is at a very simple level. They've simply taken the maritime admiralty law, so a system of law upon something that cannot be controlled, which is the high seas. And I'll explain sort of how I came into all of this, because I came into this differently, but we both ended up at the exact same spot. And what they've done is they've taken this great subterfuge of the sea and applied it to land, and they've called it legalese. They've called it legality and illegality, when all that exists on the land is the law. And the law comes only from one source, and that is the Creator. And what they do has nothing to do with creation, because everything that they deal with is dead. You're dealing with a corpse, and a corpse is a corpse. And the entire system is perpetuated to us as what's real, what is the backbone of what makes us great as a society. And it is the exact opposite. It is a system run by the living for their benefit by declaring everybody dead. And it all happens in that borning room that they call a birth room, with the doctor, come on down that birthing canal. That's right. You are a possession. And that's exactly how it is when your parents, and they're just thrilled beyond description with this process that has occurred to bring a new life form. It's beautiful. And that's what they do with us all the time, is they take advantage of the beautiful simplicity that is a man and a woman, which is, we're in and around love, in and around family. It's all about the Holy Trinity. It's all about the Bible. Everything in the New Testament, especially that relate to the journeys of Jesus Christ, are all relating to this one story that Christopher is talking to you about today. And by the way, this is why so much of that story with Jesus is on the seas. And that's why he has to get off the citizenship, walk upon the water of the maritime admiralty laws, and come to the land as a free man, which is what we are. And the only way you can do that is to walk upon the water. And you say, well, that sounds really nice, but Jesus was a very special guy. I'm not that guy, and I can't walk. Yes, you can, because their entire system is pay per. Everything about them is just a wafer. It's razor thin, and it all hangs in the balance, because the one thing that they are counting on in all of this is that this one word. And this is why you may or may not know this, but we're pretty famous for this, because Colleen and I do not use the word understand. We use two variations, which is in the process of coming to master something, we are understanding it. And then when we have mastered something, then we overstand it. And when you deal with this service corporation, once again, as Christopher said, when you deal with any aspect of your government, the Prime Minister himself, Justin Trudeau, who just has a real passion for kids, by the way, you're not going to like all the things that are come out about dear Justin in the coming months. It won't be very long now, but when you go right up to the Prime Minister's office, all he is a service representative. He's a customer service representative to the one living component to all of this. So there is. So when Christopher says to you, this is, and you're listening about lawyers, and you say this is impossible, and my brother-in-law or my uncle is a lawyer, and these are good people. They take this very seriously, and they work. Whether they have figured it out or not doesn't matter. They exist in a system that has only one living entity. And the one living entity are the beneficiaries who are behind the ultimate corporation that has created this grand theater where we are all just puppets on a string. It's just a play. All of this is just a grand play. And that's why lawyers have to serve the bar. Because behind this one corporation where everything is held together on this razor thin line, the beneficiaries, which all run back to the Pope and the Papal See and the CSKV and Pope Boniface and there's a reason why when the CSKV was passed in creating this Papal See, is why the first COVID, the first COVID-19 came out, which was the Great Plague, and you had to social distance yourself and you had to wear masks, and this has happened before, folks. And around the same time, then the Great London Fire occurred, just conveniently. The London Fire occurred. This is all tied together. You are all part of this grand subterfuge. And how we come into this, Christopher, and then I'm just going to pass it back over to you, is where 11 years ago when Colleen and I got ourselves out of the system of commerce, because I come from a background of economics, have a master's in business administration, but every time with my particular talents, nobody wanted me to go in the areas where I wanted to go, where I thought the system should go. It was always just back to protect my money. You're very good at this. You're very good at this, Charlie, and protect my money. And so the whole of it is that I do not want to pay a single penny in taxation. And by the way, that's how they consider themselves free, because they're free above this unlawful system of taxation, which we can get into later. And they get a real kick out of this. And that's what they hire people like us for. We go to school for all these years, learn all of these mathematical equations, and then all they want us to do is just simply hide their money and then purify their money, cleanse it from all of the illegality and the unlawfulness that their money is tied to. So the entire system that Christopher is saying is, it may sound like this is just all too much, but it isn't. And it's very, very simple, because that the founding principle behind all of this is that none of this is real, because no one in this system that they've created is living. It's an entire corporation. And so therefore, by default, lawyers of the bar have to represent the only living entities associated with any of this. And do you know who these people are, folks? They are the false, facetious beneficiaries of this corporation that has put this system into play. And this can be known. They can be known. These people can be known, because to do all of this, they had to identify themselves as the new beneficiaries. They've taken us as the beneficiary out of this, and they've turned us into essentially, the role player, the actor upon a stage, the person. And of course, this is a very bad word, and God and both God and Jesus in the Bible had very powerful things to talk about with the person. And God is not a God of or for the person, because of the word and the connotations of the word. So in Greek, person is Persephone, and in Greek, Persephone is a mask wearer. And essentially what it means is that you are a role player. And this is exactly how all of our society has come down. You believe all of this. You believe all of this, and you believe that your government is exempt from all of this corruption, and that they will protect you because it is the basis to the solidity of your, what you would say, your three-dimensional legal world. And they're nothing. It's a fraud. It's a scam. They are service attendees. They are attending to the service being carried out upon the maritime admiralty laws that are cast upon you. And the only way to get out of this, the only way to get out of any of this, is to get off the citizenship, to walk upon the maritime admiralty waters, and then on your own 2 feet, of your own self, of your own 2 feet, you come back to the land as a free soul. And I love the fact that whether you meant to or just through intuition, but when you created your entertainment company back when you were doing with the music back in 2004, 2005, you created the Soul Corp Entertainment. What it's all about, folks. Soul is lawful. Soul is God, and everything else is a ruse. Everything else is a lie. So let's go back over to Christopher.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. Well, I'll just give you a little, like I said, we could talk for days on this stuff, but I'll just tell you where the word soul core came from entertainment, why I chose it. True success is ultimately the divinity of our soul, yes, unfolding within each of us, which comes directly from the core of every human heart. Hence the name Soul Core. That's where I came with that. That's where that name came up from. It was a very powerful word for me, and it applies here today. I want people to also know that why I am here before you here today is because I did make a promise to my father on his deathbed to hold these people accountable. That's why I'm here. I'm still going after these people that did it. People, not fictions, not lawyers, not judges, not police. I'm going after the actual people that are doing it. And to summarize what Charlie was so wonderfully talking about there, it's really simple when you understand that if McDonald's was your government, okay, could McDonald's come to you and tell you that you owe it taxation? Could McDonald's come and, apply their codes, rules, or statutes to do that they've created for their agents and officers, exactly, and drag you into their public courthouse, right? And you would all laugh your heads off if you saw Ronald McDonald sitting there wearing a black robe and he's saying, hey, you breached this statute or code from the hamburger section or the fries section. It doesn't matter, right? It's whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, this is what's going on. Right. So to make it simple for people, you need to understand something. No man or woman in this world can take your property, okay? This is my name, my given name that came from my mother and father. It goes back to those 3 powerful words. That's my property. Nobody can take my property and go and change and use it against me or create something. It's like a copyright, when you see if someone takes, Coca-Cola's name and then they go and transfer it somewhere else, well, Coca-Cola is going to be all over them. Well, we don't realize that this is what is actually going on when we're born. So look at it as McDonald's, the Service Corporation, Government of Canada, Ontario, wherever you live, when you're born, they go and create a corporation in your name, and they claim that that's their property, like a franchise. And as a franchise for McDonald's or Burger King, they have duties and obligations. They've got to fall under the hood of that superior organization, which is Canada or Ontario here, and they've got to follow the rules and regulations. Well, I'm not a corporation. So this is where they've done the trick, the bait and switch, is that they've had to, it's really sick when you think about this, Charlie.
It is.
I mean, they kill people on paper the moment that they're taking their first breath. That's how sick this evil is that's been around here for a long time. And I loved your analogy with the Bible. For those of you that want to drill right down onto the Bible, Job 32:12 or 32:21.
32:21.
Go and read it.
Yeah.
It specifically says, don't let any man lay persons upon you or accept any of those type of, flattering, titles to your name. See, this has been going on for a very long time. And when the birth certificate system got rolled out in the 1930s, this was just another morphing of this system we were all born into, where they were realizing, oh my God, the people are starting to connect more together through paper. We need to do something that we can still keep the system in place and compromising the consciousness of the mind of man, which they've done a brilliant job over.
Let me quickly interject with two things, and I'll throw it right back over to you again, Christopher. But it's such a great point, bringing out that chapter and verse of Job. It's very important. Why does Jesus say and make this so very, very clear within the pages of the New Testament that God is the God of the living, not the dead? Okay, because the only thing that is real is man or woman, which is lawful, which is of the divinity of the Lord, of the Father, of the Creator, and that is a living mankind, a kind man, and everything is based upon the twisting of that from the living to the dead. And by the way, this is why organized society loves Halloween. It's why they love All Saints Day, All Souls Day. It ties into May 1st, 6 months later, November 1st. It's all tied in. And they want your body and they want your soul. All Souls Day is all about this SKV and Pope, Boniface. And again, Boniface is beneficiary. Just so that you know, the people who capitalize on this system are the Pope beneficiaries, and that's exactly where this comes from. And I would imagine that you know this. I was actually checking to see if I could find that in some of your other discussions, and I didn't have the time to verify it myself yet. But something that everyone should absolutely know. I always play like a little guess game for people, that there is one place and one place only where all of these so-called public records, and they're not, this is all private fiction. This is all fiction. Okay. This is science fiction. And your records are all kept, no matter where you come from, in one place, and it's a ship at sea. And when they say all roads lead to Rome, they're just a little off. It's very close to Rome, but they're just a little off, because they get away with all of this by this little subterfuge that they do. And that is, it's the island city of Venice, Italy. Venice is a ship at sea, and it allows them to loophole, because that's what these people are. They're lawyers, and that's what they do. They know God and God's laws all too well, because they have all of our original documents that come from our geniuses that came before us, and they have studied them, and they keep them for us. We do not get to look at these. We do not get to study all of this common law, common sense. They take that from us, but they study it. And then what they do is they try to find loopholes in the system. So if you're Nimrod and you're building the Tower of Babel, he made one mistake, and that is that he didn't find a loophole to take heaven by force. And so this is what Pope Boniface believed that he did. He found that loophole. And that's why every single record for every single person in the world exists on the ship at sea, which is Venice, Italy. And the reason is because they are outside of God's laws upon the land. They are a ship upon the seas. And folks, again, this is the benefit for Colleen and I, because we come from a biblical background in our understanding of this. And it is this, that the ship at sea represents lawlessness, because there are no laws upon the sea. That's why you come to the land to seek justice. The seas are sort of a metaphor, representation for the left hemisphere of our brain, which is that facts, figures, and logic mind, versus this higher mind of the right hemisphere of the brain, where all of our creativity and imagination comes from, because it's sort of a very deep process of sort of connecting to the Father in the right hemisphere of the brain. And everything that they do is all to the left, to the left, to the left. That's why Beyonce sings to the left, to the left, to the left. Yeah. All of their stars operate to the left, to the left, to the left. And Alan Lee choosing to spend his time with you versus then a specious movie by Brad Pitt and in Hollywood of Troy, that just speaks massive volumes about you, and it speaks massive volumes about Alan Lee. And Colleen and I are a couple of big scholars of Professor Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings, and I can assure all of you, Professor Tolkien was completely aware of all of this subterfuge, and so much of what he wrote in the Lord of the Rings. There's two books that have dominated the 20th century: the Bible and the Lord of the Rings. They're the two most read and the two highest selling books during the 20th century. There's a reason why. They're telling the exact same story. And when Professor Tolkien said that it's not an allegory, don't believe in allegories, forgive him, because he's attempting to keep his family alive, his children alive, his wife alive, himself alive when he says this thing. But believe me, the Lord of the Rings is a massive, beautiful, brilliant allegory about the very same teachings of Jesus Christ in the pages of the New Testament. It's brilliant stuff. Back over to you.
Yeah, actually, the Tolkien thing is actually represented, Charlie, here in what's going on in our world today. It's exactly what we're trying to do here. You see, back in those times that they were facing within that storyline, that they're facing this incredible evil. Of course, there's that all-seeing eye, that they have there in the towers or whatever. But at the end of the day, what you witnessed by the trilogies is that you saw that there was an enormous amount of coming together from the people of the various lands to ride out and to face this evil. And that is ultimately what we have to do, is we've got to face, first and foremost, the evil is this lie surrounding COVID-19. And I will just point out about the Lord of the Rings. And all the movies that people watch, people that get into these different symbolisms, they start to learn about, you start to pay attention more. If you look in the music videos, oh my God, I didn't even realize it when I was immersed in it in the 80s. I had no idea. And then you go back and you watch Madonna's videos and there you see the all-seeing eye, you see all this different symbolism that they hide within the various sets or whatever that they're doing. Then you go and you watch the Lord of the Rings. By the time the Lord of the Rings came out, I'll tell you, when I was an ignorant man, reading wasn't my thing. I was a music guy. I like to listen, right, rather than read. But the Tolkien books I never read, but those movies, I've probably watched them, Charlie, back in the day at least 10 times each, because they had such an incredible impact on me. And as I was learning, it was giving me this piece of understanding of what the power of what I shouldn't say human, because that's a separation for us all as well. He was color and is man, but mankind on this world. And I loved how you talked about that earlier, the kindness of man, which you will find in the Lord of the Rings. When you go back, for those of you that are awake to all the symbolism, see if you can find any symbolism surrounding, like the New World Order, the Illuminati, this type of evil that's out there that we see in all these other shows. There's only one place that you're going to see where Tolkien put that stuff. And it's when they go into the cave, right, of the world of the dead. It's just above the cave. There's the triangle. So go back and look at that and you'll see it. It is the only place, because in all the other Hollywood motion pictures that you see, that symbolism is all over, from their armory to, they'll have symbolism somewhere, someplace to further, put out there to those that are in the knowing, that are within these societies, of what they're actually communicating. But back to the law side of this, I mean, that's what the Lord of the Rings really is that this is what's happening right now in our world, is that the people are coming out together, the light, the beacon of lights that they've lit. Well, that's what I'm doing with you here right now. We're being these beacons of light to light these torches so that people can see them and come to them, because it is very, very simple. You all understand that no man or woman can claim you as property, and that especially applies to a corporation. Okay. And this is the bait and switch that's happened. They've had to compromise our consciousness from the very second that we were born, Charlie. And, I've never met you before, but you're a very eloquent man, and what you've been speaking to about your history, you're from a professional capacity, your knowledge of the Bible and everything. It's wonderful to hear that, for people to realize that, there is really truth that is resonating right now around this world, and it is starting to break free. And there is nothing bigger, not because I'm bringing this forward, there is nothing bigger than this truth right here and now. Why? because this unlawful conversion has happened to every single man and woman in this world. That's powerful. We don't need to go beyond that very first moment when this trespass occurs. They unlawfully convert us, right, to a legal person. And then what they've done with all this documentation, what they do against us in the courts, it's constructive fraud. It's that simple. Imagine if McDonald's, again, went and created this documentation, and then they're pulling you into a court, and they're saying that this is who you are. This piece of paper we created, see, your name's on it right here. No, that's not me. I don't know who you are. Where's the verified claim in this public courthouse that I've done wrong or harm to a man or woman? Is this a legal proceeding that's moving forward? Oh, well, legal doesn't apply to a man or woman, right? Only lawful does. So you can start to hit them right between the nose in the court's house now. But the state that we're at right now, the beacons are being lit, and if I can use that, you know, Lord of the Rings analogy, we need to bring everybody together as quickly as possible under this truth. Why? Because we are going to gather, just like they gathered in the movies. I'm not, you know, I haven't used that analogy quite to that level, but it's really that simple. We're going to gather around our public courthouses. The reason it's called a public courthouse, Charlie, is because we, the people, have a right to access it.
Yes.
The people that work in those honorable roles in the public courthouses, whether it's the front end staff, whether it's the court clerk, security, or the robed ones that all apply to and work for another society, they have duties and obligations within their job roles. Their duties and obligations don't trump the rights of a man or a woman. Remember that. That's a public courthouse. And if anybody tries to, there's only two types of trespasses. One trespass, that's why I only use that word, Charlie, is it covers everything under the sun, from, you know, contract, your house was damaged, a guy punched you, whatever, you're terrorized, it covers everything. There's only one other type of trespass. And people say, well, what's that? It's called trespass on the case. And that's what happens at a public courthouse when any man or woman messes or alters or tries to affect your paper. That's why it's called paperwork.
That's
if your
right.
paper's correct, it works for you. You've never used their legal forms. I've got a claim that's up on my website at awarriorcalls.com from the Sukleski court, also the Maneri court that was also established. Both of these were common law courts. And what they did with the Maneri case, the farmer, which I'm going to do an update, is they pulled it out of the courthouse unbeknownst to the court clerk. Because even the court clerk says, we don't know what to do with this because of the wording that was put in there. It held their feet to the fire that this is not a legal proceeding. We, the people, are accessing this public courthouse. You hear me all on audio, and I've got all the stuff I'm going to upload soon in the courthouse saying, is this a public courthouse, a private courthouse? And they're all saying behind the counter, oh, this is a public courthouse. And I said, absolutely. Well, I, one of the people, require access to it. And then you say to them, well, who's the man or woman at this courthouse that can deny me access? Oh, nobody, Chris. Nobody, Christopher. Nobody can deny you access. That's right. Nobody can deny me access here. So why are you trying to force upon me these legal forms? Legal has nothing to do with me. You do know that, and you see the court staff are ignorant of it. To show you the power of what this system is and who did this to you right at the beginning, I can jump around a lot, but I can keep it simple. With the Maneri case, I had Brent and Kathy. What they did is they created their own custom ID, which I'm showing you that I have here with the letter, and it's notarized with their picture. I had them go back to the bank, one of their banks, First Credit Union, I think it was, First National, whatever it was. I've got the letter up on my site. And they went back in to sit down with the bank manager to do what? To correct the record, because on your bank account, you're going to see your name is in all capital letters. You've put, again, if McDonald's created that corporation in your name, you've gone and put their creation on title. That's why these service corporations can come into a bank and take your funds and do all these things to you and tax you, right? We can talk about taxation too soon. But what I had them do is go into the bank and have the record changed, have the correct name put on the account. So they went in with the correct ID, all notarized and everything. The bank manager said, oh, absolutely. She starts typing away. She's going, She says, that's weird. Brent and Kathy go, what? She says, it won't allow me to put it in all capital letters. Ding, 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 ding. This is in the own bank's internal system. She says, I've never seen this before. Now remember, the people at the banks have also been lied to. We've all been lied to right from birth. Lawyers as well, police, everybody. Where the rubber hits the road right now, Charlie, is that when people are now finally hearing this truth powerfully placed to them, that is undeniable, it's concrete, it's ironclad what I'm sharing with you right here now. When you are shown this truth, no matter what capacity you act at in this world, especially if you're a man or woman that's working in law enforcement, or if you're acting as a lawyer, you need to stop and stop what you're doing and realizing you're trespassing against your fellow man and woman because you've been also lied to. Right?
Absolutely.
That's
Brilliant.
how huge it is. And that's why the police need to get this. We have to find a way. When you hear and understand this truth, I'm actually going to put up a couple of short videos in the next week or so, Charlie, that it's going to be specific to the police worldwide. And you can share this link with everybody. Send it to the people that are acting at these they're all service corporations, right? Just remember that. And what do those police service corporations have jurisdiction over? This, a piece of plastic. right? That's all. When they write up when they're taking, it's a legal world. You say, well, I'm not the legal person. I don't wish to operate in that legal world for all the wonderful benefits and privileges that you're offering right now as you're dragging me out of my car or smashing my window or fining me or terrorizing me and my family. No thanks. I'm not interested in your benefits and privileges. I would rather operate as a man or woman and access the public roads from point A to point B as my God-given right. You see, where the common law kicks in, if you go on that public road and you cause wrong or harm to a man or woman, you're going to be held liable. And God forbid you kill somebody from drunk driving or something, because then that other man or woman that's lost his family, they have the right to basically an eye for an eye, right? And you have to understand that how powerful this common law is. This is what's going to rout all this corruption, because as you said to the man, Justin Trudeau, I'm going to pull him into court with the man known as Doug Ford. These are the two top people of the service corporations known as Canada and the Ontario government. And there's only going to be 2 or 3 questions put to them. When I say the word I, am I property of Justin or Doug Ford? When I say the word I, that represents every man and woman in this country. Even though I don't speak for every man and woman, Charlie, the truth does. And when truth is present, very few words are required. And this is how quickly you expose everything that's going on. You simply have Justin Trudeau under oath or affirmation in front of the country to say, am I property of Justin Trudeau or any agent under your control? He's going to say, no, because property, you would be slave, right? That's all been outlawed. Then the second question is, Justin and Doug, who in this world, in this country, can administrate property without right? See, there's that word again, property. Well, nobody can. For give you an example, when I say administrate property, I can't go to Charlie's house and take his car out, open his fridge, run around his house, use his shower, do whatever the hell I want, take his wife out to dinner, do all, man, you might like me to do that, but who knows, but at the end of the day, that's administrating someone else's property without right. You cannot do that against another man or woman. So when they say under oath or affirmation that no officer or agent under my control can administrate property without right, then where does a single damn word that you people put pen to paper apply to we the people? See, it's not law. They all go out there and they say, this is the law that we've just put out. This is the law. It's not law. It's like McDonald's coming out. If the CEO of McDonald's came out and told you that this is the law of McDonald's, and if anybody breaks it surrounding COVID, our officers and agents from McDonald's are going to come to your house and we're going to charge you $10,000, right? You would laugh your head off at it. Yet, this is being enforced in our world because these service corporations have, again, they've compromised the consciousness of the people that are in law enforcement. Not all the people in law enforcement are corrupt. The people at the very top are. And this is what I'm saying to people. Like, I've got the evidence on the RCMP, the OPP, and local municipality that these people are creating and committing enormous wrong and harm and corruption that they're involved in. And they've all been given the truth on it, and they're turning a blind eye to it. And that's why this is going to stop, because the second that this unlawful, this is why it's so important. The second that this unlawful conversion comes into the public courthouse, Charlie, what's also coming right in with it at the same time is the evidence from Dr. Judy Mikovits, who I did an interview with about 5 weeks ago, that I've kept back, that I've held from everybody, because it is so powerful. When it comes out, along with the common law that I'm going to be bringing forward, which was in our interview, and other powerful documents that are coming with it, the world is finally going to see, number one, that we've been lied to, and number two, is Judy's recognized she's gone through 8 lawyers, Charlie, 8, and not one of them has managed to bring her evidence that she has firsthand knowledge of, put it onto the record under oath or affirmation. That's why all this theater is going around. Everything is being decided in the mainstream media, and what politicians say, no, that's not how it works. That's what that public courthouse is for, is that when we have a state of emergency like that, when people as myself or Charlie or other people that have the evidence or the knowledge to be able to access that public courthouse and move a claim against these people bringing that truth out, we have a right to do that, and nobody can block us. And yet, this is what they're doing. And why this is so paramount right now, I'm so glad I'm here, Charlie, with you, because right now I have a case that's before everybody's paying attention to. Go to my website. It's called the Sukleski Court. It's a gentleman by the name of Michael, okay? And it's real simple. His father died, unfortunately, a couple of years ago. He passed away without having a will, okay? His father tried to get a will set up for Michael for 2 years before. Michael was his only child, but then his father went and remarried, and then Michael's stepmother, he had a child with her, so he has a stepsister as well. So there's Michael's a stepsister and a stepmother. The father passed away before he could set up the will. He tried to set up the will with lawyers and leave the majority of it, as Michael has told me, and he's shown me the records, to him. But the lawyer said, no, you can't do that because it doesn't fall under the Estate Act. Right? So here's these acts that come up: the Justice Act, the Highway Traffic Act, all these things that were written by this service corporation. Well, where does this, could McDonald's come into a courtroom and basically administrate over my property that was left to me from my father or my mother? No, they couldn't. So what are these people doing with this estate act that they're trying to apply to Michael and the rules of civil procedure? That's the other big one. So what's ultimately happened, I'll make it a short story, is that Michael began the process believing that lawyers were the right way to go. Then he came across my information and contacted me in, I think it was April of this year, somewhere in there, April or May. And he showed me what was going on with them. And I thought, well, I always said, the good Lord's always sending me people, Charlie, into my life. What am I supposed to get out of this at that time? And just so people know, I can't take on any more cases now. My dance card's full, just bringing this truth into the light now and getting this done for our world, because once we do this, it's game over. Anyways, Michael came to me. I saw what these lawyers were doing. He realized that, first and foremost, on all the paperwork, right, they were using this all cap and name. So that's the first thing you attack. Right, that their courts have been moving under a false presumption. You have the wrong parties that are on top of it. It's actually all based on constructive fraud, which these lawyers are doing, and they don't like when you bring that into the courtroom, especially if you use the word barratry. Oh, they don't like it. They shit a pickle with that. So that's the first thing that we brought to their attention. Then we brought to their attention, and this is why this is so powerful, it's universal right across this world and country, in all the common law countries. The rules of civil procedure. Listen to what I'm about to tell everybody here. The rules of civil procedure do not apply to a man or a woman. Now, I want you to stop and think about that for a second, everyone. Every single court case that's been occurring on our lands for over 100 years now has all been operating under the rules of civil procedure. These rules of civil procedure are written in Canada here by a man or woman who's acting at the time as Attorney General. Again, the Attorney General is nothing more than the head man for a service corporation like at McDonald's. Do you think I give a rat's arse what the head guy acting for a legal firm of McDonald's has to say or think to me? No, unless I've trespassed against him. Then that's when he's got standing to bring me into court and hold me accountable. But in this case, they don't have that. So people are starting to realize the simplicity is that the rules of civil procedure do not apply to we the people. And what has just happened yesterday, okay, this claim went in for Michael Sukleski on September the 12th. We got it filed into the courthouse, and guess what just got attempted to do from the Attorney General's office yesterday, Michael? They wrote to the registrar. That's the woman that operates. They have the most important responsibility to public courthouse to ensure that all the paperwork is protected, it is filed correctly, that no one tampers with it, that nobody trespasses on the case. That's what they're there for. The problem is all the filings that are in our public courthouses are all in a legal capacity. So when a filing actually comes forward that a man is actually created, they are not trained actually how to do it, but you're able to hold their feet to the fire with it. And the only thing that they can come back at now, and this is what they did to the Mineri farm, is they write back, and this is what the man from the Attorney General said is this filing needs to be removed from the courthouse. We just got it yesterday sent to us, and I immediately followed right back with it. It has to be removed from the courthouse. Why? Because it's not falling under the rules of civil procedure. See, that's all they've got, people. Once we blow through these, there's two questions, two powerful questions, and why I'm doing all this to bring forward. And it's something that everybody can understand. Is it a public courthouse? That's the first thing you need to understand. Is it a public courthouse or a private courthouse? If it's a public courthouse, which we all the people are paying for, we pay for these buildings, we pay for everybody working in there. Yes, it's a public. Who has the right in that public courthouse to administrate our property? And what is our property in that instance? Our claim, not a complaint. Our paperwork that we're filing with no legal forms on it, that's our property. And we're making a claim that Bob or Susie out here is trespassed against us, and we need a jury sat to move our claim in court against, and they will render a verdict. See, that's how it works in the common law world. You have 12 jurors or you have 25 jurors in a grand jury. They are the judges. The man or woman wearing the robe there, they are off to the side, okay, and they simply bear witness. And why we want them in our courtrooms is because the lawyers and the judges are supposed to act in a duality role. That's how they're supposed to have been trained, Charlie. Okay, our public courthouses take all kinds of different law that's coming into it. When you say, well, what types of law? Well, there's the legal side, and then there's the lawful side. So the legal world, the bar, yes, they have, that's where we all go and we take care of all our business. That's why we do need lawyers for big corporate contracts, because they could be very convoluted, very complicated. That's what a lawyer specializes in. But a lawyer cannot represent a man or a woman. All right. He can only represent them, as we know now, as that fiction in their legal world. And then he has to apply what? He's bound by the rules of civil procedures in everything that he does. He's bound by the court. Every lawyer takes an oath to the court that supersedes their client. See, people don't know this. So you're ring fenced right from the beginning. You're not being first and foremost presented in the courtroom as a man or woman with all your rights, and there's no verified claim 99% of the time from another man or woman that's coming there. There's someone that's moving a code or a statute from the service corporation that created all this. Like I said, imagine if McDonald's dragged you in and they're trying to force on you, no, Christopher, you are not the man or the woman. You are this person that we created on paper. That is who we're bringing in here today, and you're liable to us. You're bound to all our rules, codes, and our court procedures of rules of civil procedure. You're not. And as soon as you put that in their face, that's why I say, when you go and download the claim that I put in from Michael, you're going to see the very first two exhibits, Charlie. There's his, you're going to see this record, all right, that's created with the notary with his ID as exhibit 1 of who the man actually is, Michael, upper and lowercase. And then you see exhibit 2. And we're outlining that this is what was created by the service corporation, which is all in capital letters. And all you have to do is go to every single legal filing that's gone into the court systems worldwide. Don't care about the body, what's in it. Look at the top, who the parties are. You are always going to see that those names are in all capital letters. And now you know what's going on. This is who they're bringing. You may see sometimes your first given name may be in upper and lower case, but always the last name, the family name, that is always in capital letters. You'll see that represented by Rocco Galante here in Canada. He's a man that just launched he's a lawyer. He launched a 191-page class action suit against the government of Canada and multiple agent officers of it, outing within his claim. He's basically shown the world also the truth, what's going on, except he's doing it in a legal capacity. But what you see in his filing, you look at the very top, Charlie, and you see he's Justin Trudeau. It's Trudeau first, right? The last name is all capitalized, then Justin in upper and lower case. Every man and woman that he's going after in the system, their last name is always capitalized. So you have to understand that this is what's going on. And the very simple thing, like I say again, I repeat it, the common law is what resides within all your hearts. You don't need to go to a lawyer. When you go to that public courthouse, you have your paperwork correctly in your I's dotted and your T's crossed that says, Bob or Susie here, they trespassed against me. Here's my claim. I want a jury sat in 21 days. They have 21 days to respond to it. If in 21 days they don't respond, you move your court and claim into court. They get brought into court. You present your case in front of your jury of your peers, and then he has the right to do his from the defendant's side. And then the jury deliberates and they render a verdict. It's that simple. The man wearing the robe, he doesn't interfere at all unless he sees that there's shenanigans going on. Okay, he keeps it civil in that courtroom, but it is my court that I'm moving. So I can show up, I can do whatever I want in that court that day to present my case, which also gives me the right to what? Broadcast it live, stream it live. See, we can do that now in our country. So this is what has to start happening, because it's the James court that would go in, or the Sukleski court. Michael is actually holding court here in front of his fellow man and woman. And when those jury of his peers are seated, okay, they're going to hear the evidence hard on. They're all going to be shown. They're all going to be shown that the rules of civil procedure don't apply to a man or woman. And when this happens, this is an avalanche. It's going to destroy the bar finally. It's going to liquidate it into oblivion. It's going to kick its arse back out to the sea where it belongs. And we're never, Charlie, going to see a child wronged or trespassed against them again when they're born, moments old in a hospital. And every man and woman, as you move your way through your life now, you're not going to be attacked by the system anymore. You're going to finally be in the position in which you've always been in, but you haven't recognized, and that is as the creator.
Yeah, absolutely. Just brilliant stuff. And I'm just going to throw a few things back in here for you and the audience as well that are just tying into everything that Christopher is saying. First off, you were talking about this little trio of characters. So you've got within this fictional system of legality, you have judges, you have lawyers, and you have police officers. All of these people have been created to create the illusion of the administration of lawfulness, justice, and they don't do this at all. They are, again, service attendees. So one of them, you could just they're general manager, assistant manager, whatever, but they're all playing their little roles in this game. And what they do is to collect money. Because this is the maritime admiralty system, is the system of currents of the sea upon the land. So you have to have a current sea to allow this flow of all of this garbage from the sea upon the land. And that's why money is a fiction, because it allows this constant flow, no ebb, just a constant flow from the sea onto the land through the current sea. And all these people that they've created, So what Christopher described in terms of the role, the dualistic role of a judge, is the observer. By the way, the observer, another term for the observer, is the master. Again, coming back to the Bible, the apprentice and the master. Take a look at Donald Trump, for example. What's the last TV show that Donald Trump was doing before he became the president of the United States? He was playing, or he was the lead person on a show called The Apprentice. And then he became the president of the United States. And what you could honestly look at this right now is that there is no other honest politician in the entire world. So he's literally the president for every single country in the world, as every other politician is just hidden behind the masks of this COVID nonsense. And they've capitulated to this currency, the maritime admiralty law fiction. And so, boy, is he ever the master in this moment. The apprentice to the master is common sense, and that's common law. And the administrators of the ancient realm of common law was this group called sheriffs. And that's where the power, the real power, is supposed to lie in this system. And by the way, the sheriffs were the original circuit court judges. And that's why sheriffs had a little star, and they had a little pony, and they went around on these circuits, and they administered justice. And what they did is everywhere they went, every town, if there was any kind of conflict between divine vigils, divine to be in and of yourself, if there were any conflicts, then they administered the justice. And the justices of the justice of God's laws are three. There are three laws of the land. It's very, very simple. And so the sheriffs listened to these claims, and then they administered God's justice very simply. And the situation was absolved. A decision was made, and then everybody shook hands on it. And if a wrong was committed, then a right, because that's common sense, and that's how common law works. You have to create a right, a righteousness, a right to correct the wrong that has occurred. And that's all that these sheriffs were doing. They were listening for the wrong. If was a lawful wrong committed, if there was a wrong committed, then all it requires, there's no anger, there's no I'm going to send you to jail. There was none of this stuff. It was just resolution right here, right now, and then we shake hands. And that's all they did, is they listened if there was a wrong. Who was in the wrong? Now make it right. And so the restitution for these wrongs was always making it right through the sweat of your labor, which is why it cannot be taxed. Your thoughts, your intellectual property cannot be taxed. They do not belong to any other person. Again, if you just take the time to read the Bible for yourself and not listen to some agent of the system that never allows you to be as king. This is so important here. When we ask the questions, remember, these are public courts, as Christopher said. We are king in the courts because we, the people, make up the courts. We are the creators. We are the creators.
We're the creators.
And whoever asks the questions is as king. When you are asking, you are as king. And ever notice in the Bible when these Pharisees or the lawyers of the Hebrew church were constantly sort of getting in Jesus's face, and they were constantly asking him questions, what did Jesus always do? He turned their question into a question, because he was always holding court as the king, because he is asking the questions. That's how you walk on the maritime. So you said to me earlier, Charlie, I have to get off the citizenship and I have to walk on the water. But Jesus is a special guy. I can't walk on water. Yes, you can. The water you walk upon is their fictional paper laws, and you walk upon it by as king. What is Jesus Christ? He is the King of Kings. He is the highest of highs. He's the holiest of holies. He's the glory. He's the light of the world, because he is as king. And when you ask questions, you are as king. And the circuit court judges were the sheriffs, and they went around, and without bias, all they did was listen, a skill that's completely lost upon all of us, because we all just want to judge. We just want to rip people to shreds and stuff. Nobody wants to take the time to listen anymore. That's all they did. On their little ponies, the sheriffs went from town to town, and all they were listening for was a wrong. And then you make it right. And you make it right with your sweat equity or your intellectual property, and you make things right, and then you shake hands, and it is resolved, and there are no more issues. There's no need for prisons. There's no need for complex prison sentences and arraignments and all of this crap that they have created, the convolution of a very simple, basic system. So I wanted to point that out as king. Now, now Christopher made a really great point, because what he's saying is wherever you look, you're just seeing corruption, subterfuge. Everybody's in on it. No, they don't have to be in on it. No. Only certain people need to be on it. There is a movie you need to watch. It is a great movie. It's a very funny movie on one level, but believe me, it is serious beyond description. It was written by the actor Simon Pegg, and his writing partner is his director, which is Edgar Wright. Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright. They're a couple of British fellows. And they did a trilogy of movies. And the first one was based on, I can't remember the name of it, but it was based upon zombies, which is the living dead, which we become. That's what this fictional system of legality creates, is a corpsoration world. And we're all corpses. And that's why Hollywood loves all these movies with the zombies and the living dead, because that's what we are. We've unwittingly agreed to play a role in all of this as the living dead. It's incredible, but it's true. And so they started with that zombie movie, and then the middle of these two movies is called Hot Fuzz. So probably most of you know this movie. He plays a police officer, Sergeant Nicholas Angel, Sergeant Nicholas Angel, Saint Nick of the Angels, and he brings down the entire system. What do they show you in this movie? And I'm not kidding. Every single line is well thought out. Every single character that is in there is a representation of the specious system, are the false ones. And so who is in this town that Sergeant Nicholas Angel has to deal with? The representative from the church. So there's one guy in the church you have to be wary of. There could be a whole bunch of righteous men that are trying to teach this narrative of the Bible and do good works. It doesn't matter. There's always one person above them, and they are the conduit to the SKV, to Pope Boniface, and the beneficiaries. Everything is for the monetary benefit of the beneficiaries of Pope Boniface. And that's why it's the papal see. By the way, when you go into the Pope's office in the Vatican, when you go into his room, and it's gigantic, what do you see on all four walls? You see the four corners of the earth. The entire earth is laid out on the ground and on all four walls as the fourfold nature of man, the fourfold nature of this world, the four principal oceans, and everything is the papal see, because they think they own. And of course, technically they do through this paper thin fiction, they technically do. And so all of this leads to Rome, except there's somebody behind. There's just somebody behind who doesn't want to be seen, who's behind Rome, who's behind Pope Boniface, behind the popes, behind this false narrative. And that's whoever these people are in Venice. And they are the puppet masters to these people that play the highest of roles, including the popes. And it all roads lead back to Venice. So that movie, Hot Fuzz, take the time to watch this and listen carefully, carefully, carefully. All the names are specifically chosen. Listen to the names of what is the name of the priest in the town? What is the name of the barrister? What is the name of the teacher? All of them, all of their names are telling you very clear. And what do they show you from the City of London Police? Run by Freemasons. Freemasons, Freemasons, Freemasons. And then you see, it's only one person that you need. You can have in the Ontario Police, you can have 50,000 great cops, but all it takes is one person above those 50,000 cops, and it turns the whole milk, it turns the whole system sour. By having that one person, and they're all Freemasons. They're all Freemasons for a reason, because Freemasons are the civil military, and they follow orders. They don't look back, and they follow orders. They keep moving forward. So
if I can cut in here for a second,
yes.
Charlie, just so people understand at home, you can keep it very, very simple, okay? You have to understand when you're hearing these great truths that Charlie's talking about here, I drill it right down to a very simple fact. That public courthouse is there for a reason for all of us. Once we access it properly, I can't do anything about the Pope, the Queen, or the monarch, or the central bankers.
That's right.
But I can damn well take care of things here for my people in this country right now. We all can. And that's why this is of biblical proportions right now, this moment. When we access this public courthouse with this truth of the unlawful conversion, it exposes all the control right then and there. And that's when the hard reset's going to happen. And that's when the rubber's going to hit the road. That's when you're going to see grand juries setting up. That's those lights that we were talking about in Lord of the Rings. All the public courthouses now are going to have these lights now booming up in them with people like myself. There's thousands of us that have this knowledge, that have this evidence of this wrong and harm. And once we correct this on from the very foundational level of the first trespass that happens against all of us, my God, Charlie, that is when our world is finally going to be free, and we are going to be able to root out so much corruption. It's going to be incredible. People need to understand something. If McDonald's created a document like this when you were born, and then they sent you documents once you got of age to earn income and telling you that you had to pay income tax to McDonald's, what would you say? You'd say, get out of here. I'm not paying you a dime, blah, blah, blah. And yet, this is what all the income tax has been based on. It's also constructive fraud. You've been paying taxation to a corporation which they created in your name without your consent. And it's constructive fraud. So when you take a step back, I can tie back to the wonderful thing that Charlie was just talking about the remedy, about making a man whole again. That's how common law works. The first part is Bob or Susie have to be made whole from the wrong that has occurred against them. And I love that Charlie didn't put in the word harm there as well, because harm is actual physical. That's something else. So once the man's made whole from whatever the damage is, the cost is, or whatever, then they go to the punitive side, and that's up to the jury to decide whether that man or woman has done it, maliciously or not, etc. They will decide what the punitive amount is. But it's very powerful, and that's how simple this is that once we bring this truth, that's why everybody must get on this and understand the simplicity of it, that when we go to these courthouses and we move these claims into the courthouse, this system's finished, Charlie. It's done. And we, the people, are finally going to have a way to fight back, because all of a sudden, all of this COVID nonsense stops. Why? Because at the same time, we're going to be bringing in the evidence from Judy Mikovich's firsthand into that public courthouse, and the world's going to see it. And in that moment, everyone's going to realize we've been lied to. All right. The theater right now, everyone's being controlled through fear, through the mainstream media, because they're not seeing anything being represented correctly at a public courthouse. Why? Because our public courthouses are completely corrupt, as we've talked about now. But to correct it, it's very simple. And I'm a man of words, and I'm a man who speaks and walks the talk and does what's required. My claim that's gone in for the Maneri case, and also Michael Sukleski, it is an incredible case that everybody can simply read and understand, and everyone's going to learn from that the rules of civil procedure don't apply to us, and any other acts or that these service corporations have created, and that their entire legal system is based on constructive fraud. And that's huge. Every lawyer is liable to you now, people. Just so you know, anytime you've gone and used a lawyer now, he's liable to you, because he's brought you into court. You've trusted in him that he is acting in your best benefit. And now you realize everything that he's doing has been based on fraud. And the maxim in law is ignorance of the law is no excuse.
That's right.
And the last thing I'll say that Charlie talked about there, he was speaking to masters. You cannot serve two masters. That's written in the Bible, right? They want you to serve the masters that created the system, which are the bankers, the Pope, the Queen. right? They don't want you to know your creator. They don't want you to know that ye are all gods, that we are all created equal in this world, and that we are the gods. We are the creators in this world, not these people. They want you to operate through the created. And that's what really hits them between the eyes when you go in and they've got their paperwork in their legal world and you simply state on the record, excuse me, are you looking for the created? And you wave that up, or the creator, right? They shit a pickle when you do that, Charlie, in court, and they don't like it. They can't get you out of there quick enough. But again, I just say this so everybody knows, is that, you know, we have a few laughs in that here, but this is very serious what's going on in our world. We are all under attack, and this is the vehicle. This is the only game in town, the solution to right this wrong in every country. Because once the people, we're working with Scotland, Ireland, Australia, the United States, Canada, all these countries are working with us now to bring this light into the forefront at the public courthouse on the same time. And when that happens, we're trying our hardest to do it as soon as possible. Got to get the police on side with us. They're starting to come around, but they've got to look at this, because this gives the police, Charlie, the most power that they've ever had before to finally and go out and root out all this corruption. I mean, this is a dream for law enforcement to embrace this truth right now. That's why I don't hold it against them, because these people have been lied to. They've been put in a horrific place. A lot of them, yes, some of them are pretty much nut jobs that are in there, but that's why they got hired too, right? They're the ones that will just do whatever they're told. Right. But the average man and woman that's in law enforcement, as you so eloquently talked about, they're great people. Yep. They've been lied to. Yep. And that's why we need to get the simple truth to them and to join us at that courthouse, because once we do this hard reset, what happens, what you talked about, that whole part there, that everyone has to be made whole. Well, has every single dime you've paid in taxation through this, go look at your tax bill. It comes with the all caps name. You've been paying on this corporation that they created. That money was all taken against you unlawfully, which means what? It's all going to come back to you. All our estates. This is why it's huge. We're talking of trillions of dollars that has been stolen from the Pope, the Queen, and the central bankers through this system that they set up a long time ago, is all going to come back to we the people in every country. It's huge. Right? That's what our world...
It is huge, Christopher. Just so I love your passion, and again, it's all righteous, so it's all right. Everything we're hearing is all right because it's all righteous, and I guarantee you. So the first key things here, once again, is that any time that there is a claim of justice made, then a court. A public court is created, not a private court, which is, of course, a boys' club, which they've created, this system of the dead. But in actuality, what is real is that a public court is created. So no matter where that is, so if any police officer pulls you over in your car, that is a public court. If a police officer stops you on the sidewalk, that is a public court. And the power of every court lies in the hands of the creator. You are the creator, not the so-called administrator of justice. You hold the power. So what's the first question? Always these sick agents of the court always ask, no matter where it is, in your car, on a sidewalk, or in a courtroom, the first thing the judge will say, he'll pull out these documents and he'll read your all corporation name, all capitalized corporation name, and he will say, is this you? And if you say yes, you have just walked off the land. This is where the gangplank. Look at the design of a courtroom. You're on the prow of a ship. Every single courtroom is the same. The moment that judge asks you, is this you? And you say yes, you just walk the gangplank. That's what this gangplank is all about. You just walk this narrow divide between what is real, the land, and God, and you as king, and you just capitulated all of your power away, and you crossed over on a gangplank onto the sea, the ocean, the maritime laws, and you have no rights, because nobody has any rights upon the sea. They're lawless. That's what the seas are, and they have made up rules, private rules for their sea, the papal sea.
If I can jump in on that, Charlie, that's right, that's a trick word. I'm glad Charlie's brought that up. When you walk into court, they go, "Are you?" And then they read out that name that's on their paperwork. The first thing that I teach from everybody, that I learned this from Carl Lentz and many other people before me, is that you never speak in their courts. because their work, as Charlie already spoke about, it only works in two-dimensional, works what's on paper. So before you go into that courtroom, you should already understand something, that there's a false presumption in which that court's moving under. They're moving under that this is what's going to appear, that you're going to show up as surety for this birth certificate that was created when you were born. That's why before you go into court, you put in your evidence, as I've done, as you're going to see in the Sukleski court that's been established. Look at exhibits 1 and 2. That's what you put into the court, your correct ID, and you draw the distinction right then and there. There's a false presumption before this court. It's a legal proceeding moving against this created entity. You have the man in front of you right here today, right? Stop this right now, or you're all going to be liable. Right. And you put that nicely in a notice, and you put that into the court. And all you say to them you say, did you get my notice? Right. Yes, I am Christopher of the such and such family or whatever. Did you get my notice? And I always say to them, I require for my record your name. And they will always honorably, most of the time, unless they're a real dick, they'll say, oh, I'm Justice something. But most of the time they'll say, I'm Bob Smith or John Smith. And then from that point on, I say, thank you, John. And I call him John from that point on in front of him.
Exactly.
Right? Because he's my fellow man. And you say to him, excuse me, John, remember asking always the question. That's what the master does. Am I property? And he's going to say, well, no, you're not property. That's right. And who in this courtroom can administrate property without right? Nobody. Boom. You've just hit him between the eyes there. Plus, he knows he's got a man in front of him now. They can't get around it, so they're going to try and get you out of the court as quickly as
fast as possible. As fast as possible. Now, there's an angle to this that some people may not be aware, and this is really, really, really where it's terrifying for them. And this is why always when you see somebody who knows these things that Christopher is talking about, you'll always see police officers start to get really nervous. You'll see the judges in a courtroom start to get really nervous. Do you know why? Because they're operating out of surety. Now, that is a twofold dualistic word with dualistic meanings. The system is so rigged in their favor. Do you know what these demons in Venice say to all of these people? These are always the applicators of justice in these portable courts. So this is a police officer and this is a judge in a courtroom. That the game is rigged in their favor. And so Venice is saying that every time they interact with us, they must win, because that's a game to them. And it's all about collecting the commerce. Remember, to allow the ocean to flow, the waters of the currents of the maritime waters to flow upon the land, then you can't have any ebb. You can only have flow. So this is where currency comes in. That's why they need to take back all of the currency. That's why this is a game of possession of the money, because they're the creators of the money out of pure fiction. Of course it would be, right? That's the only way it could be, as it flows without restriction upon the land. And then they take back their currency. And don't you see that it's all about currents? And so if these people lose in a courtroom, they have to pay. They have to pay for the time, the cost of that courtroom. They have to pay for everybody's salaries in that courtroom. They have to pay there's like a bond, because that's how all of this is. This is surety. So every time there's a court case, there's a bond being put forward by the judge. So to play this game, these people know when you get to the level of a judge, there is no hiding behind, I didn't understand, like perhaps a law enforcement official. Judges know, because they're put under enormous pressure to always win. It's about winning the game, and the game is rigged. That's what surety, the other half of the understanding of surety, that's what it means. The game is rigged, and if they lose, they get into so much trouble because the game is rigged in their favor. How do you win, and how do you make them lose? Never, ever, ever do you identify yourself under anything that they have to say. So like Christopher said, the first thing, you shouldn't be speaking when you're on a gangplank. That's, so Christopher also says something. Christopher said,
always have your paperwork in ahead of time to the man or woman that's acting as the service corporation crown attorney. So he's fully cognizant and aware, and he's liable. If he tries to proceed further, he's committing massive fraud. What Charlie was talking about there, the bonds, well, that's the CUSIP number that's on the back. That CUSIP number is used in all the court cases. There's a different CUSIP number for your driver's license and everything. But I don't go down that road because it's real simple. You simply attack jurisdiction. Remember we talked about the 3 jurisdictions, everyone? Land, air, and water. They're operating on the water, so you challenge jurisdiction right from the same. So I'm challenging jurisdiction to this court. This is a legal proceeding, isn't it? Well, that's got nothing to do with a man or a woman, right? So you can flip the court like that. And that's what happens when you get into these battles with these guys wearing the robes. You're fighting with them to keep it in the common law side, and then finally they'll give up and they'll toss it out. And sometimes they won't. They'll just go ahead and proceed, as they've done in the case with Michael Sukleski. And that's why this claim is before the world. That's why I've put it out there in public record for everyone to look at it. You don't have to understand the Estate Act. All you have to understand are 2 simple things. Is it a public courthouse that we, the people, have the right to access to seek the administration of justice and move our claims in court, not complaints, right? Charlie talked on that earlier. He says, we're moving a claim, and I meant to jump in there. That's right. We file claims. You do not file a complaint. All right, you file a claim. A claim trumps a complaint every single time. And when you get those people into court, they have to answer to your claims of wrong or harm, the trespass that's occurred. And it is that simple and that powerful. So that's what I'm saying. The claim that's gone in surrounding Michael Sukleski, everyone in the world needs to read. There's a notice of liability that's right on the front of it. And I'll tell everyone this right now, like I'm not perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, but to show you the one guy pointed out to me, and a lot of people missed it, on the very first page of that filing at the top, it says notice liability, but it doesn't say liability. I spelt it wrong. It's missing the I before the Y at the end. So it's like liability or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyways, long story short, one guy said to me, says, does this affect your case now? Does this affect because you used the wrong words? Remember, their words are keyed on it for specific words. Well, no, it doesn't. Why? Because when the man or woman comes forward, that's simply paperwork that you've filed in order to get the process moving forward. When you actually appear in the flesh and the blood in that court, you present your case, like I told you, to the people. They're not going to care if there's a spelling mistake or something here and there. You've made a little mistake. They're focused on where did this trespass occurred, and as Charlie said, where's the wrong and harm, and that's it. So you always challenge jurisdiction. You do it by, again, showing the name. Well, this court's moving under a false presumption. You're moving under the created that was done when I was only moments old lying. There's the evidence because you're giving it to him in the courtroom. Here's who I am. You've created your own ID, right? Spelled upper and lower case. You've got and even if it does have your name in upper and lower case on it, you attack who is moving this court. There's that word who. Who's moving this court? Who's the man or woman that's making a verified claim against me that I've done wrong or harm? And there is no man or woman. They're saying, oh, he's breached this code, this rule, this statute, this highway traffic act. And hopefully if you've understood now the game that's being played, it's so sick, it's easy to fight back now with them. You just got to get your ducks in a row, get your paperwork correct, and then start firing back at these people. And stand on your square when you're in that court. I don't care, because once I'm appearing in that court, I'm holding court wherever I am. Once I've established the man is before them, and I say to that man, am I property? He's going to say no, right? And can any man in this room administrate property that right? They're all going to say no. And you get on the record, say fine. Then we understand now who's before them, the creator, not the created. All of you serve me. I'm here to accept any and all verified claims before this court today, and waive your checkbook. Say, I'll pay every verified claim that's before this court today. Where is it? Oh, you don't have a verified claim before the court today. You've got some complaint. You've got some violation of some code or traffic that your service corporation created that I'm not an agent or officer with. Will produce the contract. You see, there's no contract. A driver's license is not a contract. That was all, again, brought onto us when we were I got mine when I was 16. Like, I didn't know a thing about law. It's simply, do you wish to operate under that license? See, before I had the full package, Michael or Charlie, all I had was this one document. Only document I carried with me in my car, and the letter from the notary. And when I got pulled over, I simply rolled down the window so far and I said, good day. I said, just so you know who you're dealing with. And I hand him the communication. I say, my name's Christopher. And I said, and so you're also aware, I'm not operating under a license at this time. Is there anything I can help you with? And then I shut up. Right. And then he comes back. The last time I'd done this, it was, like I say, it's been a 50-50 thing, because the police are starting to wake up to this too. They realize this corruption. They're also scared for their job. So it depends whether you get a real legitimate cop or you get the not so good ones. And last time it was hilarious because they had about 20 cars pulled over at the speed trap. It went from a 90 zone down to 60 really quickly. Right. And they caught everybody. I was doing 94. We were going to a funeral. Mom and I were talking, in the cars we were going. All of a sudden this cop comes out and he pulls around. Oh, for crying out loud. So I get pulled over. There's 20 other people there. I do what I said to you. I hand him that document, and he simply says, he looks at it, and you see he's all cocky when he first comes up. You see how fast you were going. He's got the speed gun, right? See how fast you're going. I'm looking, I go, oh, okay, right? I said, well, this is who you're dealing with, and I'm not operating a license. And he looks at it, and he goes, looks back at me, goes, oh, he goes, just a minute. Well, then he goes back, right? And there's like 10 of there's like 8 cop cars there, right? They're pulling all these people over, the just mass collection of revenue. Yeah. He goes back, and I guess he finds the senior guy that's there. And they all gather around. I'm looking at my rearview mirror, and they're all looking at this document that I have. And you see them, they're kind of shaking their head and stuff. The guy comes walking back to me. He hands me the document. He says, have a nice day, Christopher. Right? That's it. And let me go. Meanwhile, they're writing up all these other people around me tickets. And that's the power of knowledge, of knowing who you are. And here's the beauty. When you have this ID done up correctly and it shows your name in upper and lower case, when you hand it to them, say they're going to ignore it, and they're going to go and write you up a ticket anyways because they've gleaned from this license plate you have, they've got a different caricature in their system. Well, the second, if they go and write your name in upper and lower case as your document shows, and then they go and put a license plate, they put a license number from your driver's license on that same ticket. So they've got your name in upper and lower case from the ID you've given them. Now they've gone and placed what you didn't give them. You never give them a driver's license. That's the other thing, right? I never give them a driver's license. I tell them I'm not operating on a license this time. I was given one from the Service Corporation Ontario to use at my benefit, but at this time I don't require one. I'm going from point A to point B. See, it's very powerful when you walk the walk and talk the talk. But if, as I said, if they go and take that information off their computer screen in the cop car and place a ticket on it, what have they just done? They placed a forged instrument into the public because you never handed them a driver's license. This corporation they represent. So you always, when you get home, immediately you take a photocopy of that ticket, save it somewhere, and then you write across it. Do not contract and send it back to them with the letter to the chief of police, the man acting in that capacity. Listen, your officer today trespassed against me, and you just basically, again, give them the ID, tell them I was not operating a license, produce the public law that states we the people require a license to go from point A to point B, not a person. See, when you start reading this, go read all the acts and statutes and codes. What's the word that only pops up? Person or persons. Go ask a lawyer. All right, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Show me in one, because we know there's millions of law books in this world today, don't we, Charlie? Show me one page where the word says man or woman in your law books. And even if they did, I just point and say, well, then who the hell wrote it? Bring them forward. Because whoever wrote it, obviously, they believe that I'm this man or woman's property. They've got a contract where I've relinquished my rights of a man or woman. See how simple that is? You don't allow words on a piece of paper, Charlie, to control you, ever. And now you know the game that's going on with our public courthouses, this massive constructive fraud that's stolen trillions of dollars and destroyed millions of people's lives around this world. So you also know that when they create this corporation in your name, they put life insurance on it.
That's right.
That's why war is profitable, right? That's why they want us all killing everyone, because as soon as they die, well, they're getting money on the back end in their system as well. Anavon Rights, again, has drilled down on all of that brilliantly. So this has been an incredible talk, Charlie. Like I said, we've covered a lot of ground here, but hopefully simply, and I want people to know why this is so important right now is because of the COVID-19. We've got this lie out here that we have to ride out with the evidence and face it. Where is that supposed to happen? At a public courthouse. The problem is now everybody knows that our public courthouse has been corrupted. They know what is actually going on, so we have to correct the record. And how do we do it? We en masse gather, which is our duty to correct our creation, our government, at a public courthouse honorably, so we all understand why we're there, and we're going to correct this unlawful conversion that first happens at birth. And when that happens, all of a sudden the courts around the country and around the world are going to reset. And now people are going to be accessing them. And when you go into a public courthouse, it's going to be beautiful. That court clerk's going to look at you, and she's not going to say, well, here's these legal forms. I can't give you any legal advice. She's going to look across. She's going to say, good day. Are you filing a lawful claim or a legal complaint? They're going to offer you the difference of what side are you coming into on the court here? And all the people are finally going to go to the lawful side. And because I believe in my fellow man and woman, they're simply going to understand right from wrong.
Yes.
And that's the law of this land. That's why it's called common law, not common legal. Legal isn't common to anybody, but the law that we do no wrong or harm to another man or woman or trespass against them.
That's right.
It's that simple. So that's why I'm leading by example. I need the country and the world to rally around these claims that right now in the court, because it affects all of us. The second that we show what's going on in the public courthouse here in Ontario, this corruption, it's going to apply to the United States, the UK, Australia, Ireland, Scotland. It's incredible. And we will be collectively now finally a light to this world to do this hard reset. And then that's when Fauci and Bill Gates and all these people that have been doing this corruption, that's when they're going to get finally brought into court under a correct warrant. And these claims with the evidence of firsthand knowledge that Judy Mikovits have is going to be placed on the public record, and the world's going to see what's been going on from our blood supply being compromised. They know this now for 30 years, that they've had the cure for cancer and AIDS. They've kept all this back. So it's huge. It's huge, Charlie. And that's why I'm so grateful what you do here and allowing me to come on and speaking this truth to the people, because it's truth. I'm willing to put my life on the line here, which I have in my family. I'm not afraid of any man or woman, and I will eat these people for breakfast once we get into the court. But they're already trying to kick Michael's case out. As you're going to see, I do a live stream every Thursday night. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's not from a numbers perspective. It's from a database, not the YouTube, from my website as well, both of them. Once you subscribe at the website, that puts you into a database that we can see around the world and our country where our boots on the ground are for our end, so that when we go to do these actions at the public courthouses, we're going to know where the majority of people are that are going to be able to support us. And the rest that can't attend, you're going to see this live stream from the courthouse on that day. That's how huge this is, Charlie. It's absolutely huge. And in that moment, we are going to shut down over 1,000 years of corruption. People are no longer going to be paying taxation. All this money that's been stolen from us is going to come back into all our countries, and it's going to be an incredible moment in time. But this system is not going to let this go without a fight. And that's why they're going to do everything to us, from crashing the economy right now to the vaccinations to causing another third world war. And that's why we all have to stay on this train and get to our public courthouse collectively with the police, reset this. They've misplaced their trust for far too long, as you know, Charlie. All of us has. The bar is evil. The bar is the most repugnant parasite in this world, and it needs to be liquidated. Not the people. Yes, some people at the top, as we've talked about, but there are a lot of great people that went into law school that believed in with all their hearts and soul that this is what they were doing. I actually went down that road too, to try and learn legalese, and then the light went on. Whoa, 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 something's wrong here. And through the grace of God, I was shown early. And like I said, this has been a wonderful talk with you, Charlie. It really has.
It has, Christopher. It's just like I said, I have been so powerfully brought into your work by people who I really love and respect, and they just think the world of your work, as I do. And this is so important because this is self-empowerment. Remember, the Creator created you, and while we are here in the temple, there's the temple of the mind and the temple of the body, then we are king. And as long as we are as king, then we stay as king. And so, as I just cannot stress to all of you enough that the Bible is what I would say is white magic. And what you're essentially getting from these people in black robes and through what I call organized society is black magic. That's why they wear black robes. And this is all about turning light into darkness. And what we have to do, we must turn the dark back into light. And that's called righting the ship. And when you right the maritime admiralty ship, when you right it going to starboard, you come on the land. And when that ship comes to land, then all of this falls apart, because there's nothing that is based in truth. When you go into court, please know this. They are using black magic. The words that they have created for the system are literally powerful words, and they are black magical words. Unless you know white magic to counter the spell, then you have entered into the land of enchantment. That's, again, look at the structure of any courtroom. That's why it's structured the way it is. And then they isolate you on that gangplank. And then the judge is there.
For me, like I said, the word is, the word for me, Charlie, really, it's truth. That's what you walk into the courtroom. And the enemy that we are all faced with right now in this world is actually ourselves. It's ignorance.
Yes, it is. It's absolutely ignorance.
And it's not because we're stupid. It's not because we don't care enough. It's because we were never shown this foundational truth of what goes on when every man and woman's born. And that's why this is so important. What I've done, why I've stayed the course on this, is because this is truly, we could probably end the show on this, why this is so biblical. You hear in the Bible that it always says that the good Lord is going to return. And when he returns, what is he going to do? He's going to raise the dead. What do you think we're doing here, Charlie? with this documentation that we're showing, we're finally explaining to everybody. We're
Yeah.
raising people from this dead fiction that you've been placed over you unbeknownst to you, and we're awakening your consciousness to what is really going on. And it is a very, very simple solution to correct. It's very simple to correct.
I cannot stress this to everyone enough, that largely the New Testament of the Bible is speaking to this Roman system of this maritime admiralty law, and that this is why Jesus is showing you and saying the things that he says, that God is the God of living, not the dead, and that the dead shall rise. And that is when you become as king. But to become as king, you have to start asking the questions again, because you are the creator in absence of the creator, because the creator created you as creation on this golden land, and we must be the golden light. And I'm going to leave it with this, as I thank you, Christopher, for all your amazing work and help to mankind. It's beautiful, and you're beautiful for the beautiful work that you do. I'm going to leave it with this. Never, ever, ever. People know this. One of the biggest things about our channel, Colleen and I, is how we always use the word understand. Never, ever, ever do you stand under anyone but God. I will only kneel to God. I will not kneel to any other man, because no man is over me. I am the child of the Creator. I am the son and daughter of creation, and no man rules over me. So when somebody asks you, asking the question, do you understand? I do not stand under you. You stand under me. You are a service representative. You serve me, and I am your overlord. I understand what you're saying, and now I overstand you. You answer to me. And when you do this, you guarantee you what you will see in every single courtroom, no matter where you are. They jump ship. They abandon ship. And that's exactly what the judge does. He'll grab his dockets, he'll get up, and he will race. And what he's racing to is he is abandoning ship. That's what the courtroom is. That's why it's structured the way it's structured. And they are luring you in to that narrow gangplank. There's that little gate that goes to the prow of the ship. And if is this you? Is this you? Do you understand? If you take the bait, then they own you. You are the living dead. Hollywood movie. They're making fun of you. You're the living dead. Never, ever kneel to, and that's what you see with all these demonic Democrats, and they're all kneeling to Black Lives Matter. All life matters. All life matters. How about our children? Do those matter? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, do you know, she was on the Supreme Court all those years for one reason: Roe versus Wade, abortion. When all of this comes out, you will be sick in the streets for a week on end when you hear how far this depravity has gone. And it all starts with what Christopher has taught us all here today. It is all started through this subterfuge that exists with this black magic system of the black robes. Cast thy net to the right. Cast thy net to the right. Become the child of the Creator and take back your power. So, Christopher, brother, I love you, man. That was fantastic. Thank you for your time. What you're doing is God's work. It truly is. And, you know, you are rewarded for this beautiful work that you're doing. And I thank you so very much. Thank you for gracing our show with your presence. And I hope moving forward, we'll be able to touch base with you again and gain more insight and further updates into all of this great work that you're doing. And I thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, Charlie. Thank you for having me. And yes, I would love to come back again and speak with you more on this, but people can follow along in this in real time. Like I say, every Thursday night on my YouTube channel, I'm doing the updates surrounding the court work that's going on. You're actually going to see the documentation. And I'll tell you, if you want a real fast pace of this, all you have to watch are the 4 foundational knowledge videos on my website. Once you watch them, I just started doing live streams for the first time on August the 6th. Go back and just watch. I think there's 6 or 7 of them now. If you watch all of them, you will be brought up to speed so quickly and understand who you are, the power that we all have before us right now, and why this moment right now is so precious. We've got to come together. We've got to bring this out into the light. We've got to do this hard reset, and only the knowledge and the truth is going to do that. And like I said, I'm just the point of the spear for this light. It's not me. I've just been blessed enough to have been given this. I guess the good Lord knows when he has to give it to a guy that's a little on the tough side, that's going to not roll over. And I have not rolled over. I've got even stronger as I've moved along. I've kept this wrong and harm that's occurred against my family all this time. They've just, like I said, it's been horrific. And I've let that eat at me inside to keep me focused moving forward. And finally the world is coming to this truth, and it is about time, because it's going to rock our world, Charlie, and I can think of nothing more than to do that with you and Colleen by my side doing it. So thank you.
Thank you, brother, and thank you for everything. And I'm going to get this podcast up right away. So as soon as you can send to me all of your contact information for everyone in the show notes, then as soon as that is the case, I'll upload, and this will be up very shortly, because this is very powerful, very important, and very powerful.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay. Thank you, my friend. Have a beautiful day in Canada. Colleen and I was born and raised in Victoria, British Columbia. Colleen was born and raised in Southern Alberta. So we're good, humble Canadian kids. Like most Canadians, we're just good kids.
Beautiful. Well, I hope we can do this again soon, Charlie. Like I said, it's been really great. And I think you know that there's enough about this truth that we could talk for weeks on end, but we're keeping it simple for everybody. And that's why this was great today. We spoke in a really common language to everybody, and hopefully it's starting to register with them. This is the moment that we have to turn this world around. And I hope to God we can get it done, because the alternative isn't going to be pretty. And again, to this QAnon thing, I hope to God that any of them that are listening out there, if they've looked at my work, that they, support the site that I've got set up there. The subscription is the most important thing to get our numbers up, because if they're going to take me down off the internet, and when they pull me off the YouTube, you gotta be subscribed to my Warrior Calls. That way we can keep the fluidity of the transmissions and communications. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, we'll get this out right away. And thank you so much for everything you do, Christopher. Love you so much. Have a great day. Thank you to everyone. And I'll have this out very soon. Thanks.